This is Shawnee Godwin, host of Joy Economics, and you're listening to Season 2, Episode 15, featuring an interview with Terrez Thompson, Vice President of Supplier Diversity at the Coca-Cola Company.
I would also say just women by their nature have always been at the center of growth and thinking. We just haven't gotten the credit for it.
Not only is Terrez Thompson the Vice President of Supplier Diversity at the Coca-Cola Company, but she's also a champion of the company's 5x20 initiative. So what is 5x20? In the simplest terms, Coke has committed to helping 5 million women gain the skills, resources, and networks needed to build successful businesses. This global initiative has an ambitious time frame of reaching their 5 million goal by the year 2020. The details in Terrez's own inspirational story of success in corporate America is up next.
Welcome to Joy Economics, creating better ways to live, work, and play. Our show will challenge the way we do business in the corporate world and provide listeners with the tools and know-how they need to find more joy at work and in life. And now, your host, Shawnee Godwin.
And hello, and welcome to Joy Economics, creating better ways to live, work, and play. I am here today with Miss Terrez Thompson, who is the Vice President of Supplier Diversity at the Coca-Cola Company. We are so honored today, Terrez, to join you at your company headquarters, the Coca-Cola Company headquarters, based in Atlanta, Georgia. So please, everyone, please help me welcome Terrez to the show. Terrez, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
We are so happy that you're here. I'm smiling because I got to come out to Coke today, and that is my absolute favorite beverage. I have a legit attachment to Coke.
Obviously, that's what we like to hear.
Yes. I have a legit attachment to Coke, and I'm born and raised in Atlanta, so this interview is near and dear to my heart, and I'm just so grateful that you found time to carve out a little bit of space for us to sprinkle joy on our listeners today as we talk all things Coca-Cola, supplier diversity, and more.
And we think Coke brings light and joy to everybody's day.
Absolutely. So again, Terrez, it's great to see you today. I wanted to kick off the show by setting the stage for our listeners on the significance of having the conversation that we're going to have today, specifically at the Cola Company, which is headquartered, as we said, right here in the heart of Atlanta, Georgia. The city is ranked number 3 for growth of women-owned businesses, and we wanted to pause to shed light on some women's issues and women's topics, and I couldn't think of any organization that I wanted to spotlight more than the Coca-Cola Company. I've been very impressed through the work that I've seen you guys do through our affiliation through organizations like WeBank and NMSDC and GMSDC, and would love to spend the next few minutes talking with you and having you share your thoughts, perspective, and ideas on women and the impact they're making specifically as entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think Atlanta specifically and Coke working in partnership with it, along with other corporations who are headquartered here, has always been a trendsetter for a variety of things. So women entrepreneurs and women business owners and women in the marketplace, in the workforce, is sort of a natural for the Atlanta community. I would also say that Atlanta, as you guys probably know, has been on the leading edge of development of businesses that are diverse.
Right.
Through Mayor Jackson, then Mayor Young after him. And so I think that we have a climate that's rich for capitalism. Mm-hmm. We have a climate that understands diversity. And I would also say just women by their nature, I don't know if it's a secret, I guess it's kind of been a secret, have always been at the center of growth and thinking. We just haven't gotten the credit for it. And I think probably over the last 20 years, sometimes by necessity,
right,
women have grown as entrepreneurs because of the factors that we know. Salary, income equity, work-life balance, has pushed women to become entrepreneurs and be independent. And then I think some women once they realize they're good at it,
Right.
Sometimes it's just a matter of getting a better paycheck or getting a better job or having more flexibility. And, and the women that are in my life are very focused and very organized and very are very ambitious. And so I think once you jump out there and decide to go it on your own and you realize that you're good at it, this great, better job, independence, becomes a business and it becomes entrepreneurial. And I think Georgia is just a place that allows growth. And, even if the folks and the power didn't plan it that way,
Right.
once they see that a trend is successful,
Right.
they make it happen. And so I would just say it's just a natural fit. Georgia, Atlanta has just always, that's why I moved to Atlanta in 1983.
Where did you move from?
I moved from Baltimore.
I didn't know
and,
that.
I'm an African American woman, and and like I said, I've been here for over 30 years, so I'm not new to the game. Back then, when magazines, etc., were still very viable in the African American community, Jet and Ebony were magazines that we followed. People always look for the centerfold. They looked for folks who were featured in the wedding feature. And it was one of the magazines that I looked at in terms of my aspirational goals and people I wanted to be like.
Right.
It was the place way back when the Lena Hornes and the Joe Lewis was on the topic. And so Atlanta was one of those places that seemed really hip and fresh and urban and progressive for people of color, African-American men and women. I actually thought, and I did, would meet just a very sophisticated guy here and get married and all that sort of stuff. So Atlanta for me, and still is a place where things are happening and shaking. So that's where I came from. I came from Baltimore. I'm a Baltimore girl.
I did not know that. I have a lot of shout out to all the people in the Maryland, D.C., Baltimore area. I can't even say it.
Okay, I didn't realize you had a national following. And for those of you from Baltimore, I'm a real homegirl. I'm from the Park Heights area, so I'm a real. I don't know if I would say rag to riches story, but I literally grew up in the hood. And am now working at the Coca-Cola Company, and really do feel like I can bring my whole self to work from that point to now.
Well, and we love all of that, especially as we talk about creating more joy in the world and how do we let people honor their humanity at work as a way to find success and wealth and happiness in their careers. I thank you for sharing that. It's a great backdrop to the conversation that we're going to have today. Before we get into the specifics around the Coke 5x20 program, I wanted to kind of pull out a few of the points that you made. And I think what strikes me most is the kind of the rise of women as women have evolved and have grown more confident, more comfortable as things are beginning to, I won't even say beginning to level out. I think there's still a lot of work to do in terms of, salary, compensation, pay equities, things like that. But when I look at my mom's generation and my grandma's generation, you can certainly see the momentum and the progress that has been made. We look at things like the Me Too movement. We look at last year, just last year being the year of the woman in politics and all the women that ran for office. And I think we're just at a beautiful time where it's like watching a flower blossom. And to know that Coke gets to be a part of really championing the work of women entrepreneurs worldwide. I'm just really excited to get your story and have that story shared. So can you tell us a little bit about Coca-Cola's 5x20 initiative?
So 5x20 has really been a godsend for the supplier diversity function, in that our company has always saw diversity as a strategic imperative. And everybody got it, and our leadership saw it that way as well. But I think that kind of leading back to your point, with the realization, and I think we always knew it, that women were truly the driving force in a lot of areas, economically, et cetera, in terms of the folks who make decisions about purchasing. You knew it and you saw it. And then dovetailing on that, having our chairman publicly in a global forum announce that the Coca-Cola Company not only understood it and got it, they were going to put it into action, and that we as an organization had a commitment to empower 5 million women by 2020 was just a phenomenon. We've always looked at women business owners as a key part of our strategy, but it was such a connection to what you do in supplier diversity, bringing businesses into your supply chain. And Coca-Cola has always had, Coca-Cola Supplier Diversity has always had a focus on development of entrepreneurs. So it was a real, just synergistic place for us to fit in. And so as the program evolved, initially it was in emerging world economy, so Africa, Asia, Latin America, and we knew that North America would be a little bit different, but we knew that there were women that were coming out. I would actually say that this woman empowerment really truly is in its very embryonic stages. Yes. Even though we've made a lot of progress, we're still very much at the beginning tip of it. So for us in supplier diversity, we immediately started talking to WeBank and even NMSDC about how we could utilize this moment that our leadership was willing to make investments in seed initiatives that could scale up to large initiatives. And so the first thing that we did is we said, and it kind of goes to your point, kind of talking about embryonic, I still think that women in general, although are empowered and they know they can do it, are still hesitant to be bold. So you do see a lot of good examples, but you still have a populace that still has uncertainties about where they fit and insecurities. In addition to that, I have a wonderful husband and he's a great dad, and now my daughter's 21, so it's not true, but I still think that sometimes when I would travel and all, even though he was great, he still felt like he was babysitting. Right. And I still think even in the younger generation, I think millennial guys get it a little bit more. There are a lot of challenges that women face. So 5 by 20 was very empowering, and where we were able to focus on it was not only bringing women into our supply chain, but really taking our developmental programs to the next level. So we initiated a training for women in general. We partnered with WeBank. I think it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Oh, awesome. And we piloted with a lot of their business owners. And it was a digital approach, which worked. But then if you're going to really reach and truly have impact, we realized we needed to have a live version where we would have someone who could go out and really help women actualize what they needed to do to be business. And now ours is fundamental, and there are other programs that are a little deep, but we have gotten a lot of good response to it. And then the next phase, which was just 2 years ago, maybe 18 months ago, was we went to Pam Eason, who I really think is a visionary, yes, in terms, and very customer centric, really. And Pam Eason, for the folks out there in podcast land, is the head of WeBank, Women Business Entrepreneurial Council. Yeah. And we actually launched last year a Women of Color Initiative. Yes. Which has been fantastic. And and it's been a really integral part of our 5 by 20, looking at the numbers and scaling up. And so Yvonne Austin, who's a director on my team, is responsible for those programs. And so we launched it. And we felt like we would because we knew WeBank with their programs could get us at least 200 to 300 women, right, maybe 1,000 in a year. And so we set aspirational goals last year, and I won't say what they were. But through the work that we did, we actually exceeded those goals 4 times. Wow. I mean, it was just, phenomenal for us, because we knew that I always knew that there was a huge market for women in this space. Right. But the women of color entrepreneurs, and I don't have the exact statistics, are the fastest growing sect of entrepreneurs over, I think, the last 5 to 10 years. I mean, they're growing like gangbusters, but they reach a glass ceiling. Right. And part of it has to do with what I said earlier. A lot of these women are going in because their jobs don't fit their lifestyle. A lot of them don't even see themselves as entrepreneurs. And then the traditional glass ceilings of access to capital, etc. So 5 by 20, as I said, we've always been visionaries at the Coca-Cola Company. I would say our leadership was visionaries in creating it, and it was just a perfect fit for the work that we do in supplier diversity. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you absolutely did. And I'm really grateful for a lot that you guys have done, but in particular, the Women of Color program. I know we just had recently a Summit and Salute event for WeBank, and we were able to attend. Our
Were
team
you there?
I was there.
You didn't even say hi to me.
I was not at the Women of Color event, but Stephanie Thompson on my team was there.
Oh, okay.
So I got all the notes. I was over at the forum meeting.
And I probably met her.
time.
But I'm at that age where I forget. I remember faces, but I forget names. So
Stephanie was there, and I told her I felt so validated by the information that was shared, because I went through this season of growing and scaling my business and then feeling very isolated and alone and like disenchanted with what I'd created because I wasn't able to do the work anymore. And I know that a lot was shared about how to not just grow and scale, but set your business up in a way that you're able to get funding and loans and recreate the passion that got you there. And I felt validated because when I was going through that season, I just thought something was wrong with me. I didn't realize that was a natural phase of business. And so to begin thinking about succession planning and exit strategies and ultimately what and how you're growing your business for what reason and what endpoint was new to me and very important for me to hear that that's a natural phase of growing a business, that disenchantment phase. So
as we said before, even someone as successful as you, and I've actually been able to watch you grow, there's still a lot of uncertainty and insecurity, and with all entrepreneurs, but particularly with women of color, Asian, Hispanic, and African American, because of where they perceive themselves on the totem pole. But WeBank is so wonderful because the other thing that folks don't know is that you're not alone. Yeah. And there are resources. And so this is a development program, but it is an outreach program because we feel like there are resources that can be matched to women entrepreneurs that they don't know about. Right. So it's as much about that because, training only does so much, as an entrepreneur. It just kind of either validates what you're doing or it shows you that you need to do more. But where the real rubber hits the road is when you interact with folks who are doing what you do, when you talk to leaders and subject matter expertise that can help you grow your business, when you find out that there are organizations like an organization called Axion that actually is in the business of providing loans to small businesses and entrepreneurs at a very favorable rate, that Coke happens to be a partner with. We actually got Walmart, one of our key customers, to be a co-sponsor with us. When Pam said, "Well, Michael wants to be a partner," well, first of all, I want everybody to be partners. That's what we do at Coke. We don't. Coke does not need supplier diversity for marketing, right? Which it does give us it's very good for reputation. But we're doing this because we want to grow businesses. So the first thing I say when I introduce the program to folks, and if there are any corporations out there that aren't competitors right. who want to be a part of this, please join us. So we actually got Walmart and Southern California Power Company to be partners. And there are other people who are coming and asking us for that because one, it grows WeBank and allows for more resources, but it also allows their entrepreneurs to be a part of that. And so supplier diversity is one of those spaces where you can collaborate with folks. So we're excited about it. We're very proud of it.
Well, you should.
Can you imagine having a job where you are paid and work for Coca-Cola to help women and minority entrepreneurs? It's just amazing.
It really is amazing. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back from the break, I want to get more into this and talk specifically about the Golden Triangle. So I'm going to throw that out there, and we're going to breeze on into a break. And when we get back, we'll talk more with Terrez Thompson, of VP of Supplier Diversity at the Coca-Cola Company.
Joy Economics, creating better ways to live, work, and play is brought to you by Communique-USA, a marketing and communications firm that provides staffing solutions to high-growth, high-stress teams so they are able to be more productive, efficient, and happy. Learn more at communique-usa.com.
And welcome back to Joy Economics, creating better ways to live, work, and play. Today we're talking to Terrez Thompson, who is the Vice President of Supplier Diversity at the Coca-Cola Company, and we're learning all about the company's 5x20 global initiative that has the ambitious goal of helping 5 million women entrepreneurs by the year 2020. So let's get on back to our conversation. So Terrez, we were, right before the break, I kind of set you up and said we're going to talk about the Golden Triangle philosophy. And so the Golden Triangle philosophy, as I understand it, is this intersection of private, social, and government that all kind of merges together to create the fertile ground on which the 5x20 program stands. You've said a lot. Could you expound a little bit more on how that really comes to play and comes to life?
Well, as I said, getting to 5 million women is a tough job. And so Coke has been very effective in a lot of our sustainability initiatives and partnering with various sources. So I can say on the ground for our program, the partnership with WeBank is obviously a nonprofit partnership. Not only is the work tough, but also identifying those women that can benefit. So WeBank was a perfect source for us to work with and really leverage and expand our program beyond the resources that we had.
Okay.
So we use their we used some of their tools, for example, to build the curriculum initially because they had done a lot of work themselves. And then we used their membership to start the program to ensure that we had a reasonable number of women and we could assess it effectively. We also actually, our internal development program, we're actually partnering with the Urban League,
awesome.
which is, and people know that the Urban League is a civil rights organization, but they don't also know that they're a civil rights they're a nonprofit focused on employment, and they've done that all along, as well as entrepreneurship. And they too have a curriculum that's very effective. And so we're not in the business of building curriculums. We're in the business of bringing women into our supply chain. We do development because the truth of the matter is that a lot of diverse suppliers, for a number of reasons, can't necessarily compete in the way that larger companies can. Then you also have governments who are very focused on development of women entrepreneurs. So I have actually, and Shawnee just shared with me that you have an international audience. We, sell coffee products. And there are a lot of women farmers in Colombia, for example. So we actually went down, I actually went down with one of my procurement guys to see if there was an opportunity for us to leverage and benefit from that. That wasn't a success in terms of us being able to do it, but we're always looking for ways to partner. I actually, this is the truth, last week spoke to a delegation of the Congressional Black Caucus, and I've actually spoken to congressional subcommittees about the benefit of developing and working with small businesses. So a corporation obviously is in the business to make a profit. We do believe that engaging women contributes to that because, healthy communities contribute to profit. But there's a lot of great work out there that we can leverage and benefit. And there are experts out there that aren't necessarily in the Coca-Cola Company that can help us think differently about what we do. Speaking of Walmart again, they have a huge program to support women entrepreneurs, and we've actually collaborated with them on a number of things, and we've actually also signed commitments about doubling women businesses that we do business with, et cetera. So for me, my perspective on that is really in order to get the biggest bang for the buck, or to have the furthest reach or the most impact, there is a sweet spot where business and government and nonprofits can work together to truly affect change and progress in areas such as women development.
So I want to talk, I'm going to transition a little bit. I want to get a little bit more into you as the supplier diversity professional. How did you get into this field of work? How did you land your role? Because we do have a lot of people who are in corporate who are like, hey, this is great, y'all, but I'm not trying to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
I just want to grow where I'm planted in this cubicle, in this office that I'm in. How did you get into this work, and how does it align with the passion that's inside of you?
It wasn't planned. I'll put it that way. I'm actually a CPA by training.
Oh, wow.
And have worked at Coke for 34 years.
Okay.
And have done a lot of very exciting things in finance and management and operations. And like a lot of people, I was on a very high trajectory for the first 20 or 25 years of my career, probably first 20 to 25 years of my career, which was great. Mm-hmm. And I made a lot of progress. But, the truth of the matter is that organizational structures are a pyramid.
Right.
And so I had reached a point in my career where I was looking to go into operations, more into operations, more like leadership. And most of the opportunities were more international. And as I said, I have a 21-year-old. And when she went into middle school, she, had issues adjusting like a lot of kids in middle school. Now, I'm not saying I planned it this way. And I was, not getting sort of the opportunities that I thought that I should get for a number of reasons. Most of it has to do with just, competition, the number of slots that are available. And I was really at a point where I just wasn't sure what my next spot would be. And I actually got an opportunity to go into the community team. And at the time, Ingrid Saunders-Jones, who most people know, and if you don't know, you can Google her. She's a fantastic woman who really was a driving force in how we engaged in the community. She offered me an opportunity to work in the community team to build up our global volunteerism program, which for me at the time, I wouldn't say it was a slap in the face, but it wasn't really. I was one of those very outspoken minorities who believed in diversity, but I never really wanted to do diversity. Right. I just felt like I could be more effective if I was doing it through the operations, quite honestly. And not that community was diversity, but it felt soft. Right. It just did. I'm just going to be honest about it. And so I went into the role. I think I did a good job. I think I did but it was like a piece of cake. And I didn't really appreciate the full impact of the work that I was doing. Right. And, but it was the perfect time because my daughter was transitioning into middle school. My husband was a great dad, but I'm really the more, A-type personality in terms of making sure she did what she needed to do, making her strong. And so it was an opportunity working in community because Ingrid Saunders-Jones knew the importance of life balance. And she knew what was going on with her employees. So it was really the first year that I was able to go to mothers events. Oh, awesome. I was able to really get her schedule focused on tutoring that she might need, balancing her track career, and it was really great. And so things do happen at the right time for you. You don't always, and I don't believe in fate, it's just going to happen. But you have to be in the moment, and you have to know that this is happening for a reason. Yeah. And then you've got to work hard and strategize and be deliberate so that you reach both goals. And so that began the journey, I think, for me into supplier diversity. And at the time that I went into supplier diversity, our chief procurement officer name was Ron Lewis, another maverick to me at the company. And he wanted supplier diversity to be seen as a business imperative. And he was changing the way we did procurement. And he really wanted supplier diversity to be an integral part of the operations and not be seen as a social cause, even though there is some social elements to it. But he felt like if we didn't do that, we wouldn't be successful. And so because I had a business background, I had actually worked in procurement before as a financial manager, he thought that it would be a good fit. And so, and at that, and I don't know if I would have seen it that way if I hadn't had the transitional period. And it's just been a marvelous experience. And I have been an advocate for supplier diversity because, as I said, I was obviously focused on ensuring that I could play a role in diversity.
Right.
So I was an advocate and actually had won an award because I, pushed at that time. I was working for the R&D group, pushed us on hiring diverse suppliers in that space. But it was through the business. It wasn't directly in it. And so so I do think that I'm glad that I started later in my career because I do say to people, if you have a passion for diversity and that's what you studied for, it could be something you want to start out in. But in terms of just compensation experience, any area that you go into, it's great to have some sense of the business first and grow that way and bring that perspective. I'm not saying that's the way you have to go.
Well, it makes sense.
But I think it was helpful, especially, and then you also have to know the culture of the company.
Right.
So in a company like Coke that's so broad and so global, I do think you more readily get a seat at the table or you get the door opened if folks have a sense that you understand the business as well.
Right.
So that's how I got into supplier diversity.
Well, and it makes sense too because by having such a vast and broad background, you as an advocate for suppliers and diverse suppliers in particular, you have a good sense of the business to be able to know how to advocate and move and maneuver people through the system.
And there's just one other thing that I would say. I was raised by a politician, so I did fundraising early on. So it didn't really bother me when people said no. Because that's because you get no more than you get yes in supplier diversity. It's not because people don't want to use the business, it's just the nature of it. And you can get very insecure in an area like this.
Well, we have that in common. I was not raised by a politician, but I was raised by a salesman.
Oh, okay, same thing. Exactly. It's like, okay.
No doesn't exist to me
right,
until
exactly.
you say N-O.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Oh, okay.
And then even then you don't feel like they've seen it your way.
Right? It's like, okay, so I'll just ask you something else. So, yeah, my dad was a pharmaceutical salesman, so I grew up just completely.
Same thing. Politicians are salespeople.
Exactly. We're going to take a break, and we come back. We're going to have a little bit more fun with Terrez Thompson from Coca-Cola, Supplier Diversity, and we're going to get into some joy jar and some joy jamming, and we're going to wrap up with a few more fun facts about women entrepreneurs. Before we go to the break, though, this lovely jar in front of you is called our joy jar.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you, I feel like I'm going to actually shake it up because we're going to just...
Oh, Lord.
Okay. And just grab a question, any question, and read it for our listeners.
Take the small piece of paper.
The smallest one in the jar. Read the question, and then we're going to go to a break and come back and get your answer.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. What's the one thing you dislike the most about your job and why?
Ooh. Okay. We're going to take a break. Come back. I'm actually really curious now. When we get back, we'll be back with Terrez Thompson, Supplier Diversity, Coca-Cola Company, 5 by 2020 in a few moments.
We want to know how you are creating better ways to live, work, and play. If you have a Joy Economics story to share, reach us at joyeconomics.com.
And welcome back to Joy Economics, creating better ways to live, work, and play. We have been having a great conversation today with our guest, Ms. Terrez Thompson, VP of Supplier Diversity at the Coca-Cola Company. We've been talking to her about her professional life, and now we want to turn the dial a little bit, turn our attention a little bit more to some of the fun, personal sides of her life outside of work. Before we left, we had you go grab a question out of our joy jar, and you read it for our listeners before the break. Read it again and tell us your answer, please.
Okay. The question is, what's the one thing you dislike the most about your job and why? And actually, I have a good answer for it. I just thought about it literally when the sound came back on. So, and these ladies in the room aren't going to believe it. And this really is corporate in general for me, what I dislike about the job, because I really don't dislike anything about supplier diversity.
Right.
The travel is getting kind of stressful just because it's hard to travel in the United States today. But I think for me, the toughest part of my job and what I dislike the most is, believe it or not, my nature is introvert. I am really an introvert. But, and this goes out to the audience, I'm a very practical person, and I knew in 1981 when I started my career at Price Waterhouse that in order for me to be successful, I had to engage.
Right.
And so I had to develop a persona. And when you say you're introverted, it doesn't mean that you don't like people. So it was a part of me, and it wasn't like I was being phony. But I had to bring out the parts of me that I didn't share with many people in order to engage. And the reason I dislike, it's not so much I dislike having to be an introvert to be successful. And in supplier diversity is particularly that way because, one, you're meeting with external audience, but then even in the work world, working in diversity is very tough. People think, oh, you're traveling. It's very tough if you're doing a good job because it's a series of tough conversations with people who you want to invite you back to continue that conversation, if you know what I mean. And so it's very exhausting to be in these jobs for an extended period of time. And sometimes you're dealing with people who aren't necessarily, some of them are, who aren't necessarily biased. They just don't get it. Right. And so having to build up for these conversations is particularly exhausting and stressful. So fortunately, I'm doing a job that I love and it brings benefit. But for every yes that you get, you probably get 15 to 20 plus no's. Some of it's valid because at the end of the day, I'm a share owner of the Coca-Cola Company. And if the person isn't competitive or the business isn't competitive or their services aren't competitive based on price or whatever, that's not who you want to bring into the supply chain. Right. Most supplier diversity professionals are not twisting our arms and saying, bring this person in, take a loss, right, or shave the profit a little bit. So the exhaustion and the mental agility that you have to have is very tough. So I don't know if I would dislike it. It kind of makes you proud when you have a win, but it goes back to the work-life balance thing. So when you have a job that's that intense, you really, really must have some level of life outside of work. Because if you don't, you see it. So many people nowadays that are committing suicide. I don't know if it's more or if you're just hearing it because of social media. People are, very ill. Most of it's stress related. Yeah. So I think that's probably, and I hate the no's, obviously. There's some obvious things. I don't like the no's. I don't like building up suppliers and they don't get the work. And I do think one of the things that I don't like is that there are some suppliers out there, and it's probably not about diversity, right, who, who build themselves up. You think you've done all the research. You bring them in to talk to a business person, and it's like, oh my God, right, how did I miss on that? And the truth of the matter is, and let's not even go into, oh, that's discriminatory or whatever. The truth of the matter is that when you're working with suppliers that are diverse who don't normally get the opportunity, if you have that one bust or that lemon, it really does make it difficult beyond that. And when people say, well, why do I have to have the extra burden? Well, you do in a way have the extra burden, but the fact that companies like Coke are willing to invest in supplier diversity, they are accepting that there's a degree of advocacy that's necessary. Right. Having said that, I'm not naive in the way to say that sometimes those adversities that I face are because of that. But I have not met anybody at Coke, truthfully, that once you if you engage, if they allow you to engage, and you have the right amount of change management and knowledge about what they're doing, who does not get what we're doing, try to be supportive, and get a lot of joy out of the successes. And that's truthful. It really is. But just personally, it's the stress of being introverted by nature and really having to come all out in corporate to be successful. You really do.
Yeah.
Or else you're not going to be successful unless you're like a scientist or,
Well, nobody believes I'm an introvert
Right.
too.
I do.
really am. But I call myself a what do I call it? Extroverted introvert, because my work requires me to engage, like you said, and be extroverted. But I do need those moments where I have to go recharge and fuel my tank and shut out the world.
Yeah, I mean, I can take a weekend off. And
Absolutely.
my family's like, don't you want? I'm like, no. I don't want to do anything.
So speaking of family, when you are not the fabulous VP of Supplier Diversity, when you're not at Coke, when you are taking that time for yourself, what are some of the things that you enjoy doing outside of work? What balances you and makes you feel balanced, whole, and happy?
Well, anybody who knows me, if there's anybody out there that knows me, the center of my life is my daughter. She really is. And it's probably because I had her past 35 and she's the only child. So we spend a lot of time, and she's like a Instagram, she's very social and all that. So she's always finding adventures for us, which, so we're going to Bali for her graduation trip. But it's very economical if you do the research. I mean, not economical. I don't want to, people are like, yeah, right. But with Instagram and access and travel and all that kind of stuff. So we do some travel. But again, being the A-type personality that I am, when I realized that I would be an empty nester, I started a book club. It's a great group of ladies, very diverse group of ladies and diverse in terms of their interest and what they've been exposed to. And they're a lot of fun. And we do read our books, but it's a lot of fun. So I said, I'm not going to start a book club with women who don't read the book. But we don't always talk about the book once we read it. Once we've had a couple of glasses of wine. I also started a brunch group. Second what do we call ourselves? Second Sunday Sisters. And so we identify restaurants in Atlanta. And then being an introvert, I've got good friends, but I'm one of these people, I have like a handful of really good friends, but I've met great people and I hadn't always taken the time to connect with them. And so these things were for that. I do a lot of reading.
What are you currently reading?
What am I currently? We just, of course, being Michelle.
Oh, Becoming
Michelle.
Yeah.
Sorry, Becoming
it's
Michelle.
A great book.
Right. So
I love to read too.
Yeah, I do. Well, I do, but I hadn't done a lot of it, and I refuse to do it. Audible.
Like,
I just think it's not right.
Yeah.
But I am actually. My boss has given us a book about culture because we're going to have a leadership team meeting, and I've got to read that by April. And I haven't started because I'm not one of those. A lot of people. I feel like I'm. I'm not like. I feel a little. That I'm cheating a little bit because I have a lot of friends that read all of these motivational books and all these how to do. I hate those books. I like. Novels that are sometimes a little trashy, and I just can't. I've never really. If my boss tells me to do it, I read it.
Right.
But I think part of it is that most of the stuff that I feel like you read in those books by these genius gurus, my mother taught me.
Right.
If you grew up with an African American mother who was single, who who was raising you, going. I just feel like most of those things are like common sense. Yeah. Now they may not be, and I probably can learn from them.
But
I am going to be
the book like.
Right. Well, I've got to read it because I'm one of the leaders on the team, so I got to set it. But I'm not looking forward to it. But Effective Habits and From Good to Great.
Those books are always hard I'm kind of like you. Like it's hard for me to read business books because I'm very interested typically in a part of the book. So it's hard for me to go through the whole thing. Mm-hmm. I will skip ahead and read like the part that I'm interested in. And I don't ever read them like cover to cover. I bounce around a lot and pick it up.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
And that's where a friend of mine, actually this gentleman, he told me there's an app that you can get is more than the Cliff Notes version, but it's not the whole book. I got to find it. But apparently I can't do that book like that. But he said that's the best way to read improvement novels. And he's a very successful entrepreneur.
I definitely need the
I have to
name of
find. He
that.
gave it to me. I wrote it down. I can't remember, but it sounded as though it could be the solution to my problems as it relates to that. And what else? I had something in my mind, but I forgot. Oh, and then like a lot of women, and I know this sounds stereotypical. I am trying to lose weight, and I just decided that it's not going to be a whole lot. It's going to be, I have a goal that when I reach 60, which is in 2 years, that I want to be able to fit into the size I was when I was 55. Okay. And so it's like 2 sizes down. So I'm doing intermittent. And it works.
My doctor just told me
really
about that yesterday.
works.
This is my day one of intermittent fasting.
Well,
she was like,
I've got the plan for you. Well, this week I did it. But I had bought Girl Scout cookies. Okay. So from 12 to 8, it was like all Thin Mints.
But you stopped at 8 o'clock.
Right. And I think
I stopped at 8, though.
And I actually think one reason it works for women, at least the women I know, is that most of my friends, we really like to have wine in the evening. Stress reducer. And I think because of that, I'm drinking less. I have less glasses of wine. Not that I have a whole lot. Yeah. And so I think that helps. And actually, with the Girl Scout cookies this week, I did not gain weight. Because I ate Girl Scout tip cookies and mostly proteins. Yeah. And then I have 2 cooks in the house. My daughter and my husband are both excellent cooks.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I've told them I'm not eating anything if it's after 8 o'clock. So that's keeping a lot of my attention.
Well, I have so enjoyed getting to know the more personal side of you. I'm going to wrap you up with a couple of other quick questions. I'm getting the flashing red lights, the signals. But I did want to know, no one gets out of here without giving us their Joy Jam. So when you are music is a big part of our show. God. So when you are on the expressway, yesterday was first day of spring, the top is down or the windows are open, your hair is blowing in the wind, and you are completely in the moment. What song is on the radio?
Well, to be honest, I only listen to sports and news. But when I need a joy jam, it's probably Prince.
Our sound engineer Kelly's gonna find that for us and mix in a little Prince 1999 into the episode. I want to thank you for coming on the show today. I would love if you could leave us with just a common theme that you've seen from women across the globe that speaks to success, a success tip based on what you're learning from all the women that you're interacting with and growing and developing. And then tell our listeners how they can connect with Coke and learn more information about the 5x20 program.
Okay. I have always had a board of directors. And mostly it's women, but I have a couple of men in it. And what I have always tried to do is to evolve it. And the people who I consult with generally have achieved more than I have. I think that's very important. And I think especially with girls, because women, I'm sorry, don't get offended, because from a young age, we are communal with each other. And I do find that those that are most successful have a good core group of women that are sort of no drama, what does it say? No drama like Obama is. You're always going to have a little drama in your life, but I think the reason why the groups that don't have the drama is because you can learn from each other. And I do find that a lot of women that I interact with, they kind of look, not a lot, but I do think there is a mentality of scarcity sometimes where you look at the world, you're chasing crumbs versus seeing it as a whole pie and understanding that there's a slice for everybody. And the more you support each other, the bigger the pie becomes. And I think that's probably true with some minority folks too. So I think you really have to continue to grow and keep people in your life that can bring things to you. And it can be intimidating. especially if you're like my age and you got some friends that are like running corporations and they're making tons of money, or their life is perfect, which I don't believe it is, but some people give you that impression, to stay in those circles, just so that you can grow. And surprisingly enough, you can give a lot to those women too. So I think that's very important. Always have aspirational goals and aspirational friends.
Awesome. And how can our listeners connect with Coca-Cola?
You can do Google and Yahoo searches. You can do for 5x20, Coca-Cola 5x20 program. I love Google and Yahoo. Are you one of those people that if somebody's asking you a question? I told my daughter, did you Google it? I loved it.
I Google
everything.
Everything.
I know. I'm an authority.
How do I find Google?
Right.
I Google everything.
Exactly. And the same with supplier diversity. If you do Coca-Cola supplier diversity, and actually on our website, we have an email for our team, and we do try to respond to all messages. And if we haven't, just remind us. I always say put something catchy in the subject, though.
Yeah.
Like, something that I'll look at and say, is this spam or is this person real? Yeah.
And I want to testify. They really do check emails and respond. And I appreciate that because that's not always the case. Mm-hmm. And you guys are certainly super busy and have lots of people pulling on you. And it's nice to be seen and heard, and just the little bit of reply goes a long way with us suppliers. So
can I just say one more thing, which is a little brag point for us? It's always, I always get a chuckle when I answer the phone, because I do answer the phone if I'm sitting at it, and people are like, I thought you were going to get your message. I thought that I was going to get your message, or is this really Terrez? And I really do believe, and I think this is one of the unique things about the Coca-Cola Company, we really do believe that our constituents are our job. And so for me, I'm glad that you're thankful, but my job is to deliver to the diverse supplier community and to our customers. And so if I'm not answering my phone or if I'm not responding, let me know. Because I have gotten people to say, well, I called you one time and you said, I don't know if I was rude, but I was very straightforward about why they couldn't get work. Which they couldn't, but I could have done it a different way. So I'm very open. I'm very thick-skinned. So keep calling us, keep reaching out and letting us know where we can do things better. And if there's an opportunity you know about, because I don't know about all of them, let me know, and I'll try to work it for you.
Well, we want to thank you for your time today, Terrez. We want to encourage you all to not chase crumbs. I wrote that down, but to look big, to look broad, and to show up in the world and get all that it's got for you. So, Terrez, thank you for being here today.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for helping us find and create better ways for people to live, work, and play.
You're very welcome.
It's been a pleasure.
It was a pleasure for me, too.
Y'all have a great day.
You've been listening to Joy Economics, creating better ways to live, work, and play. To learn more about this episode and other Joy Economics stories, visit joyeconomics.com.